Raindrop, drop top. The Falcons and Patriots just couldn't be stopped. All right, welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, and now we have our Super Bowl matchup all set up between the Atlanta Falcons and the New England Patriots. And I honestly think, before I get into these games, I honestly think this was the most overhyped championship weekend I could ever remember. Both of these games were terrible. A lot of people thought they wasted 7 hours of their life. And we thought we were going to get a classic game from the Falcons and Packers. And we thought we were going to get a close game from the Steelers and the Patriots. But none of that's happened. But hopefully, with the playoffs being so bad, hopefully we get a really good game at Super Bowl 51. So we got two of the most high-power offenses this entire year with the Atlanta Falcons and the New England Patriots. And before we can talk about the matchup, before we can kind of get a little preview here, because we're probably going to talk about the Super Bowl matchup for 2 straight weeks. That's what we do. We're going to try and bombard you. We're probably going to get annoying by you, but it's all right. That's just what we have to do. Well, in the NFC Championship game, the Falcons defeated the Packers 44-21. And like the Falcons have all year, they got off to a fast start. I think it was their 8th straight game with a opening possession touchdown drive. And that is hard to do. That is very hard to do. And they got off to this fast start. They won. They did very well in the first quarter, and they haven't looked back at all. The Packers were just completely getting shut down the entire game. And I said it on Friday's show, this defense is probably the most underrated defense left in the entire playoffs. Their pass rush was very underrated. A lot of people aren't giving credit to Vic Beasley and this pass rush. This defense has gotten a lot better as the year went on. And I know that they are one of the bottom 10 teams in yards per game and points allowed, but that's from the whole entire season. And when you look at the Falcons' schedule, and when you look how they finished, their defense played really good. You can't... And I think the reason why we didn't really talk about their defense is because their offense was so good. And you couldn't really see how good they have been this entire year. I think we couldn't really figure out if they were good or not, because maybe it's that their offense plays so well. Maybe that's the reason why their defense plays well at the end of the games. Well, dating back to week 14, or I should say week 10, dating back to week 10, the Falcons have allowed points, 15. They allow 15 points to the Eagles. They allow 19 points to the Cardinals. They did give up 29 to the Chiefs, but that was a real good game. They did give up 14 to the Rams, but that is the Rams. They did give up 13 to the Niners, that is the Niners. They gave up 16 to the Panthers, but the Panthers were terrible all year. And then they won in a shootout against the Saints 38-32. So, is their defense good? Or was it just Aaron Rodgers? Or was Aaron Rodgers just had a bad day? Well, there's a couple of things to it. And the Falcons, they have played, the whole team came together and played ever since, this 5-game winning streak that they've been on. And even against Seattle, they still allowed a lot of yards and a lot of points, but they still won the game. And I think when your offense scores so many points and they gain so many yards, I think it makes it easier for this defense. So I do think that is a reason why this defense has played well in the playoffs and late in the season. So it's easier to play when you're ahead. It just simply is. But I can't take a lot away from the Falcons here. The Falcons are the most balanced team in the NFL. They can drive the ball in a variety of ways. Matt Ryan can throw it to Julio Jones. Devontae Freeman, Tevin Coleman can run the ball. They can even catch the football out of the backfield. Even if Julio Jones is not open, they still got Mohamed Sanu and they still got Tyler Gabriel making plays. And the thing about this game was that I feel like the Packers left Julio Jones open on purpose. I just don't know why. Like, there was plays when Julio Jones really was wide open down the middle, and I'm like, how are you going to leave him uncovered down the middle? How are you going to leave him uncovered? He's like probably arguably the top receiver in the game. How are you going to do that? So I don't know. I just think the Packers defense just didn't have it, and that can be maybe the scheme. And maybe Dom Capers is probably going to get fired now. I think he should have got fired a long time ago, probably like 2 or 3 years ago. But, this game, there's a variety of things. The Packers, not the Packers, but the Falcons offense still can't be stopped. The Packers defense, we keep seeing this type of defense year in and year out when they're in the playoffs. They just can't make a stop. And remember, the Packers, they just haven't been historically good on defense in the playoffs. And I know, and look at last week. The Green Bay Packers were up, 28-13, and then the Packers came back and tied a game. If the Packers had a really good defense, that game would have never been tied up. And let's flashback about 2011 or 2012 when they made Colin Kaepernick look like a star quarterback. And we all know how Colin Kaepernick turned out. This defense is just simply not good. The Packers, they can't rely simply on Aaron Rodgers. And I know Aaron Rodgers is, he's looked at as a god amongst people or a god amongst men. But, you had to add a running back to this game, to this offense. You have to add some defense to get some stops, because there's going to come a time when you come against a defense that's going to be really good. And let's just say the Packers did win this game. Let's just say they did. They would have to face the top overall scoring offense in the Patriots. The Patriots defense is no joke. They're probably one of the best defenses this year. That's the reason why they're here. Even though Tom Brady is their quarterback, they won games when he wasn't there. So I do think that the Packers need to realize that their defense is the issue, or simply that they just need to make a change at the defensive coordinator position. There's been some talk maybe that Mike McCarthy should be fired. Maybe, but I think if the Packers don't have a good year and they happen to go off a slow start again, I can see Mike McCarthy being fired. And I know that's a stretch because, this team literally just made the NFC Championship. But, they haven't won any championships in the past, ever since I think, 2008. It's been almost 10 years since this team has won a championship. And, when the Green Bay Packers, they're one of those teams that have championship expectations. So I do think that the Packers need to add some help if they want any chance to be a Super Bowl contender. And honestly, I kind of think the Falcons have been kind of underrated this entire year. You know, no one thought honestly, they were the favorite in this game. But honestly, they were looked at as the underdog in this game. And no one really gave them credit. Everyone kind of wrote them off, and they just keep proving us wrong. And I do think that they have a legit shot to beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl. But, you know, Matt Ryan had a great game. 392, 4 touchdowns. Julio Jones, man, what a game he's had. 180, 2 touchdowns, and 9 receptions. So, we're going to see this high-powered offense. We're going to see Malcolm Butler versus Julio Jones. We're going to see Matt Ryan versus Tom Brady. And it looks like we're going to be in for a good one. But as far as the Patriots, I'm going to discuss their game against the Steelers when I come back from the break. I'm going to discuss how Tom Brady's success maybe is being not appreciated, and a variety of other things leading up to Super Bowl weekend. And I can't believe it's only 2 weeks. We have to wait very long. We have to wait a long time. It seems like a long time. But I will discuss the AFC Championship when I get back to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
All right, like I previously said earlier in the show, we do have the Super Bowl matchup all set. It is set to take place February 5th in Houston and NRG Stadium. As for, I did just talk about the Falcons and their win against the Packers to make their second Super Bowl appearance in, I think, about, 51 years? And yeah, you know, they're going for the first title. As for the team that they're facing, they're actually making it to their 9th Super Bowl ever, and which is the most in NFL history. Tom Brady's making his 7th Super Bowl appearance. It is hard to do to even make it one. We saw the road at how Matt Ryan got there. This is his first ever appearance. Tom Brady's been there 7 times. And the Patriots did defeat the Steelers 36-17 in a game I thought that the Steelers looked completely lost. They looked like they were just lost. Their receivers couldn't catch. They had no running game. Big Ben did not look like the same guy. Well, he did finish with a pretty good stat line, but when you're down by a lot, your numbers are going to get skewed by playing catch-up ball. Well, the Steelers lost Le'Veon Bell in the first quarter, or in the first half. I forgot which he got injured, but he did not return with an ankle injury. And after Le'Veon Bell left the game, this team did not look like the same team at all. They didn't have that killer bees instinct. They just didn't. No, Antonio Brown didn't do a whole lot. He has 77 yards. That's not good for Antonio Brown. That's just not good at all. But I got to talk about a player on the Patriots, Chris Hogan. What a game this guy had. Chris Hogan finished with 180 yards and 2 touchdowns. This was a guy that was cut by 4 teams and used to play lacrosse at Penn State for 4 years. This is an amazing story that Chris Hogan has. This is an amazing story. He goes to Penn State, plays for, I think he's a 4-year athlete at that school. And then he goes to a FCS team for 1 year. And then he becomes an undrafted free agent and gets signed by a variety of teams. I think maybe the Buffalo Bills is one of them. The San Francisco 49ers cut him. And now he's on his way to playing the biggest game of his life in about 2 weeks. I was going to say, what a journey this guy has. What a game he has. And I'm not sure if that's because Tom Brady's the quarterback, but honestly, not a lot of people can get 180 yards in a playoff game. I just think it's a credible story how, he didn't even grow up playing football. In college, like he doesn't even have a college background as a whole lot, and this is the thing with the Patriots. They always find players. They just know how to find players. They know how to find players that fit their scheme, and they know how to. And honestly, I think it kind of helps with a winning culture established. I kind of really do think when you establish a winning culture, the players will follow suit. Well, the team that Chris Hogan played on after he went to Penn State was Mammoth. He played 1 year of football there, and then after that, he did go undrafted. He got cut by four teams, and his game last night set the Patriots record for most receiving yards in a game. So there you go. So he went from Penn State lacrosse to Super Bowl player. I just think that's an incredible journey for a guy like that. I can talk about Tom Brady all day and his greatness, but I just feel like I got to shine a light on where it needs to be shined. But, speaking of Tom Brady, though, he is on track to pull out revenge. He's on track to get revenge on Roger Goodell. And remember, this can be the end. It did end, but this can put an official end to the Deflategate. And then, can you imagine if Tom Brady wins the Super Bowl and Roger Goodell has to hand him the trophy? And imagine the confrontation between these two guys would be. So, in some cases, the Patriots are getting rooted for that aspect. In some cases, the Patriots are being rooted against because they've been there for a long time. They've been good forever. So, that's a storyline that we have to look out to in the game in these next 2 weeks. But Tom Brady, he finished yesterday with 384 yards and 3 touchdowns. And I kind of think people don't appreciate his greatness. I just don't think people don't appreciate his greatness. They just don't. I kind of put it towards I kind of want to compare them, but they're kind of different players in their leagues. The best way I can compare them is Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant was one of the most hated players in the NBA. And he's been retired for about almost a year now. I felt like people never appreciated him playing. I think he's been one of the most underappreciated players in the game. And, there is a lot of factors to that I do understand. There is his little situation there in Colorado. And, he's been looked at as probably a ball hog, and his personality just didn't resonate with the public. As for Tom Brady, he's been one of the most hated players in the NFL. I think it's because of the team that he's on. His team has been involved in a lot of scandals, like the Deflategate, and you got Spygate. And as for an alternative fact, they've been involved into Fire Alarm Gate. But Fire Alarm Gate is just an alternative fact. We don't know if that's actually true or not. I just wanted to say alternative fact due to past weekend occurrences. But getting back to this game, though, or Tom Brady, I just feel a lot of people don't appreciate his greatness. I feel like a lot of people won't never appreciate the greatness of Tom Brady until like 10 to 15 years. He's in 7 Super Bowls. He's 39 years old, playing at a high level. He finished with the best touchdown interception ratio this year at age 39. I just don't see how you can argue against his greatness. If he wins the Super Bowl, you can't argue that he's the best of all time. And I'm a 49er fan. You guys might know that by listening to the show a lot. For a long time, I kept saying Joe Montana is the best of all time. He's the greatest of all time. And I can't argue against Brady with Montana anymore. I just can't do it. Montana was not playing on a high level like this. Not like this. He wasn't playing MVP caliber football. I just think that the greatness of Tom Brady will be underappreciated until he's out of the league for about 10 to 15 years. Until he makes, even when he makes the Hall of Fame as a first ballot, I still feel like he's not going to have a good reception during the ceremony. So I just think, no matter what happens in the Super Bowl, I still think Tom Brady his greatness is going to be overlooked despite if he wins the Super Bowl or not. He's been there 4 times. No, he's been there 7 times. He's on his way to win his 5th one. And I know that Tom Brady's greatness, and I did say that it will go underappreciated. I kind of think Bill Belichick's greatness will kind of go underappreciated as well. He's been to 10 Super Bowls. There's 51 of them. He's been to 7 as he's about to go to a 7th one as a Patriots head coach. And he went to 3 as a defensive coordinator. Or he went as a defensive assistant, I think, with the New York Giants. So, you got the greatness of Bill Belichick, Tom Brady being underappreciated because of the scandals that this team has been involved in the past decade. But as for the Steelers, I do think that once they get Le'Veon back healthy and they get some if they kind of get some defense there, improve on the defense, they're going to get Martavis Bryant back, so that's going to be another weapon to use on offense. I think the Steelers will be back next year. I think they're good enough to be in the top Final 4. Le'Veon Bell, if he stays healthy, there's no doubt about it that this team is a Super Bowl contender. Martavis Bryant, I think he's going to come back. Antonio Brown, I think he's the best receiver in the game. So this team needs to improve on some defense. And if they do that, I think they can be in the Super Bowl next year for 52. I really do think so. So the Pittsburgh Steelers are a good team. It's just that the Patriots were just a lot better. And don't get me wrong, that fire alarm thing did not... Don't get me wrong. The fire alarm situation at the hotel, the Antonio Brown social media video, they didn't lose because of that. The Steelers lost because the Patriots were just simply a better team. They just were simply a better team. Don't forget, the Patriots' defense has been phenomenal this year. And I know they haven't had a good schedule. They haven't played a lot of quarterbacks. This was the best offense they played. They're about to play probably the best offense in all of football. the Patriots were just a better team. And I kind of think I overlooked them a little bit. I kind of think that the defense numbers were kind of skewed because of the teams and quarterbacks they played, but no, I just can't do it. The Steelers, they just need work on some defense, and the Patriots were just simply the better team. They just were the better team. Well, we got our Super Bowl matchup all set in about 2 weeks, and of course we will be talking about, this ain't the last time we're going to be discussing it. We will be discussing it probably for the next 2 weeks. I don't know how much. But when I come back from my last break, I'm not going to talk about Patriots, Falcons, Super Bowl related stuff. I'm actually going to talk about the Indianapolis Colts and what they have done over the past weekend and who they want to bring to the organization and what they did to fix a situation in the front office. So I will discuss that when I come back to the Going to Me Concepts Football Podcast.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMc MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMcpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMcpodcast.com for more info.
Well, I just discussed the greatness of the Patriots with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, of what they have done ever since they have went there, ever since Bill Belichick took over as a head coach, and ever since Tom Brady became the starting quarterback for the Patriots. Discussed all that in the past segment. But I want to talk about another organization that was kind of going toe-to-toe with Tom Brady throughout his entire career. And, that was, of course, Peyton Manning was the quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. And Peyton Manning's not in the league anymore. He hasn't been the quarterback for that team in the past 3 to 4 years. Andrew Luck is the quarterback. The Colts are a whole different team now. And the Colts have finally fired general manager Ryan Grigson after 5 seasons. Jim Irsay says Saturday night it was the right decision for the team. It's the right decision, the right time to finally do it. Grigson was under contract for 3 more years. And Chuck Pagano, who is also signed for 3 more years, is actually going to stay as the head coach for 2017. But, Irsay did say it was gut intuitive instinct from looking at where we were and where we are as a franchise. I think that we needed to make a change. I felt intuitively you get the feeling when the timing's right, when a change will help, and whereas continuity is something that I really want and long to have as much as we can have it. But in this case, I really felt the time was right to make a change. We needed some new direction, just in the vision of our football program. That's from talking to a lot of people and giving it a lot of thought. So that's a statement made by Jim Irsay there, the owner of the Indianapolis Colts. And when asked about Pagano's future, Irsay left no question there's no question that he is our guy for 2017. So the Colts went 8-8 last season. They missed the playoffs, and they missed the playoffs for a second straight year. They finished third in the AFC South. And before the Colts missed the playoffs for the past 2 years, they went 11-5 for the first 3 years of Andrew Luck's career. And Irsay said he compiled a list of general manager candidates. And, of course, a name that is on that list is Peyton Manning. It looks like they're trying to bring him back to the franchise. And Peyton Manning as a general manager, I can kind of see him in a front office role. I feel like he kind of has the look for it. And I can see him in the tie, in the box over there watching the game. I can see that. I can really see it. I can't see Peyton Manning as a coach, but I can see him in a front office role. I can. But, the Colts are going to start a extensive search for the new GM. Jimmy Ray III, who is the vice president of football operations, is a candidate for the GM job. And I do think that this team has to do something. They have to get some defense and some offensive line help. Because if you don't get any help for your franchise quarterback, you guys are not going to go anywhere. You're not going to go anywhere. And this was the first time Grigson was a GM. And at the time of the hire, remember, he took over for Bill Polian, who's really had a lot of success there during Peyton Manning's tenure as the quarterback. But Grigson makes some really good draft picks in his first every year. He did draft Andrew Luck. He did draft Dwayne Allen, Coby Fleener, and T.Y. Hilton. 3 of those 4 players are still there. The Colts went 11-5 and reached the playoffs in 2012. In Andrew Luck's first year, Ryan Grigson's first year, Chuck Pagano's first year, and Grigson was named NFL Executive of the Year. So I do think it is the right move for Grigson to leave because he just didn't make a lot of roster moves to improve the side of the defense and to improve the offensive line. But the thing about this story that I really find intriguing is that the Colts hire psychologists to improve the relationship of Chuck Pagano and Ryan Grigson. They wanted to enhance the communication. They wanted to enhance the relationship. They wanted to improve everything that was going on between these two guys, between Chuck Pagano and Ryan Grigson. And it just became unworkable. The focus was primarily to improve this relationship between Grigson and Pagano. But Jim Irsay just determined it just wasn't working out. And this is what Jim Irsay had to say about this whole situation. There was a lot of work going on within our organization to evaluate how interaction happens, how people communicate, and how we get better. It wasn't just sitting and staring outside at the Indiana winter. Through the process, I think both men grew and understood where they have to change. So, according to sources, one person compared the meetings to a couple going to marriage counseling, hoping they can work out their issues with the help of a third party. So they tried to do some marriage counseling between Ryan Grigson and Chuck Pagano, and then they just realized it just wasn't working out. They just couldn't work with each other, and they had to go to a divorce. And that's what ultimately happened. So I do think getting rid of Ryan Grigson is a right call. I'm actually surprised that Chuck Pagano is going to be the coach. I think with Kyle Shanahan still on the market, I think Kyle Shanahan will go to the Colts instead of 49ers because why wouldn't you? You have a really great young quarterback. So I wouldn't be surprised if Chuck Pagano's let go and then the Colts happen to pursue Kyle Shanahan, which I think could happen. I wouldn't be surprised. But I do think Ryan Grigson is a right move. He just hasn't done a whole lot to bring in talent there. And Chuck Pagano, I honestly think they need a change of scenery there. I think he's a good coach, but I don't think he's a great coach. And I think that's the reason why the Colts haven't been to the playoffs the past 2 years. They haven't gone past. They made it to the NFC Championship once, and they absolutely got torched by the Patriots in that game. So they weren't even competitive in their playoff losses. But I'm going to have to go. That's going to have to do it for me. I had a lot of fun today discussing the football games from the past weekend. And of course, I'm going to be back tomorrow, and I'm going to discuss any type of news that has occurred in the past 24 hours. And I'm going to bring it. So as always, I have to thank you guys for tuning in to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. As always, I'm Jeremiah, and you guys have a great day and have a pleasant tomorrow.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMc to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.